I just talked to an author here in Austin who launched a book, and she said two things made it more difficult to promote. So one was that she felt there was mixed messaging in how she was presenting it, that the blurb felt YA, whereas the subtitle was progression fantasy and felt lighthearted, and the cover looked like hard, serious science fiction. So it was hard to know for the audience what experience they were going to have with the book, and so they didn't rush to pick it up, and the interviews she was giving maybe didn't have quite as big an impact. But she said the second problem that made it hard to market was that it was cross-genre, so it was always going to be a difficult sell. I actually think that these two problems are both symptoms of the true problem, which is not knowing who to pitch your book to and what to say to them that will make them excited to buy it. If you know those two things, then you know what to put on your blurb, you know what to put on your, in your title, your cover, etc. And even if there are cross-genre elements, you know exactly who to go to and who's going to want that. And the cross-genre elements can be like icing on the cake. That's fine, because you're communicating to them an experience that you do in fact deliver on in the novel that they want to have. So how do you come up with this magical arcane knowledge of who to go to and how to pitch your book to them? Well, this is something I borrowed from my days as a business coach that I do with every business and would do with every book as an author. Unfortunately, this step is often skipped entirely in how-to manuals or videos on how to self-publish, or it's very, very lightly touched on. And this is what in business we call market research, but because business is bad, as all authors know, and selling books is not a business, we're going to call this audience research. So we're going to find people who are talking about the kind of book that we want to write, and I'll get into cross-genre and everything, and how to find these people, even if your book is cross-genre. And then we'll get into how to know what sort of experiences they want. And I'm not just going to be lecturing you, I'm actually going to take you step by step through the process of doing this for a novella that I am going to write and publish in the next few months. A cross-genre novel, no less. So stay tuned, you'll see how this is all done. I will walk you through my process, and I promise you that if you just did this technique as a one-time couple hours that you spend before you started your book, you will have a huge advantage over other authors. But if you come back to this, you do this before you write your book, maybe while you're editing it, and again at the end of marketing, you will know exactly what to do for your cover and title or blurb. You will know exactly who to go to and what to say, so that when you hit those interviews, people can recognize what you have to offer and be excited to rush to Amazon or wherever you're selling your book and go ahead and pick that up. Now, if this is the kind of content that you'd like to have help with, that you've been wondering how you're going to write and pitch this book when people don't seem to get the concept, or you're in the middle of writing a book and you're wondering, oh my goodness, how am I going to pitch it? Or you have a book that does not seem to be selling well and you wonder if it's because you're not communicating clearly to an audience what experience they're going to get, then go ahead and comment down below. I would love to help you with this and run the experiment, especially if you've published past books, to see how much this step actually helps you improve your marketing process and gets more sales. So I'm absolutely happy to help. Go ahead and question down below, and if this type of content is helpful, please like and subscribe. If this content is not worthy of your like and subscribe, leave a comment down below on what you need help with, and I will do my best to make that video happen for you. So, with no further ado, audience research for my cross-genre novella. Since I'm the kind of guy who's always trying to ice skate uphill, I'm going to create a cross-genre novella. So what I'm going for, and I think it would be hilarious, to do a cozy Cthulhu novella. So, i.e., cosmic horror with like ancient eldritch beings trying to devour your sanity and destroy your life, or just doing that as a side, a side effect of whatever dastardly plans they have for the world. And a cozy little cafe where nothing bad ever happens. So we'll see if I can mix those two. The point is, before I dive into it and try and sell people on this, I'm going to do some audience research. I am going to go and look through each of the each of my inspirations, including, all right, where are the most vibrant Cthulhu groups, and what are they looking for, what are they reading, etc. And then I'll go to cozy groups. Heck, I'll look up Cozy Cthulhu, because maybe that's a thing and I didn't even notice, and there's already a small little niche thirsty for that experience of the Cozy Cthulhu. Or the Cthozy Cthulhu. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I have in another video talked about like the steps, so I'm not gonna be focused exactly on the steps. I'm gonna be showing you how I implement them, starting with my spreadsheet setup and finding discussions that might be relevant to potential fan audiences. All right, so I am here in my spreadsheet, very basic, simple spreadsheet. I've used much more fancy ones when I'm doing market research for a business, because I might be going a lot of different directions. This can be a little bit more streamlined because this is just for a book, very specific product. So I'm looking for groups, and I have the name of the group and the link to the group. I sometimes like putting the size of the group. And bigger is not always better. Actually, sometimes having a very specific group that's very niche but very active could be better than having a large group where it's, someone spams and no one's paying attention. It's all constant spam and no one's paying attention. Whatever miscellaneous notes I want to make in that. And then once I find those groups, I'm going to record some of their do's and don'ts. And actually, maybe I'll start a third tab here for the final step, which is feedback, hook and feedback. So once I have an idea of what I'm going to put, then I will go ahead and actually go back to the audience and saying, hey, here's my idea, does it resonate? This doesn't mean if it doesn't immediately resonate that I have to completely go back to the drawing board, although starting this at the beginning of a writing project, I can go back to the drawing board if I feel like it, if I feel like I'm not getting any traction. But it does mean I might have to go back and communicate a different aspect of the book, as long as that is an aspect of the book that I'm delivering on throughout the book. If this is just, if I promise people something that happens in chapter 1 and never again, I'm not going to get good reviews. If I only deliver in chapter 50, I'm not going to get good reviews again. I don't want to be disingenuous. I don't want to be a slimy marketer. I want to be promising people an experience that they're going to be having throughout my novel, but it doesn't have to be the only experience. It doesn't have to be a single genre. I don't have to commit myself to just doing the usual tropes exactly how the mass market loves them, etc. I just have to make sure there is one thing audiences are hungry for that I'm promising and delivering on, and bam, everything else icing on the cake. So let's go ahead and just start by, if I were to pitch my book as a cozy Cthulhu novel, what comes up? Cozy H.P. Lovecraft stories on Reddit. Bam, not the first person to think of it. I'm not surprised. I'm not a super genius. This is not bad, right? My idea should not be judged on whether I'm the only person to ever have it, and if you're the only person ever to have that idea, that actually can make it harder to sell, right? It's great that other people are asking about this. So some people are wanting this. Let's see, it's 3 years ago. Today is Halloween, it's super rainy out, and I'm planning to light some candles and read what are some cozy Lovecraft stories in the vein of the music of Eric Zahn, OK, Dagon, or The Festival. I know my definition of cozy is probably weird, but I love reading about cults in decrepit little towns. It's kind of like watching the rain from inside. It's very cozy because you aren't in it. Okay, so his definition of cozy. So this person is much more in Lovecraft style. All right, his definition of cozy is warped, but he gives it to you, which is great. This is from the R Lovecraft community, so that's good to know. Let's go ahead and say group r/Lovecraft. Link there. I don't know what the size of this group is. I can look this up. Boop. R Lovecraft, does it say 236,000 members, so that's plenty big. Seems like a place where I could post stuff for feedback. I'll use the actual numbers so that can be then sorted. R Lovecraft. And then I'm going to also, since this is like striking gold on the first hit. All right. So I'm gonna do, or this is the source. I'm gonna say here, and what is their dues? Cults. That's great. Everybody loves a good cult, right? Decrepit little towns. All right, decrepit little towns. I can do that. In fact, I want to write about a creepy but cozy, decrepit little diner. Little towns. There's some other references. Eric Zahn, Dagon, or The Festival. That's music. But if I do a book trailer, I can listen to that music and maybe come up with some music that borrows it. I don't really have any don'ts from this post. Creepy atmosphere. It feels like a real place you could go and visit from the amount of detail and mood and setting. All right. Was it? How do I? There we go. Multiple lines. Feels like a place you could visit. Details. See The Shadow over Innsmouth. Bam! That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Some things like I can absolutely include this, right? And again, this is going to peel, if this is reiterated, don't just take one piece, but I'm hearing decrepit town you can visit. Those are kind of similar. And so, all right, cover a decrepit town with something culty, right? Like title, blurb, right? Sci-fi, like all of these things are going to be gold for reaching out to the people who are jonesing for this type of thing. So there's other suggestions. Cat of Ulthar has a really cozy story time feel. It's more general, but I guess I would have to figure out, like, all right, if he likes cozy storytime feel, what is that? What evokes that storytime feel is what I really want to know, but I could read that and guess. So bam! All right, so, and the great thing about audience research is this is now generative. So if these are cozy novels or novellas or short stories or whatever, right? I can then go ahead and start Googling the statement of Randolph Carter. Short story is by Lovecraft, but like, all right, there's wikis about it, but who's talking about it? All right, Goodreads, a good place to get reviews and opinions, as is like Amazon pages for books. Let's go ahead and read some of these reviews. This early story, 1919, published in The Vagrant. This is very philosophical. This is a simple story, but it scared me the first time I read it and scares me now thinking about it. So Arnator Randolph Carter tells of the night he accompanied Harley Warren, his friend and fellow student of the occult, to the graveyard near Big Cypress Swamp. Harley, long been obsessed with discovering why certain corpses never decay, but the rest firm and fat in their tombs for 1,000 years, is now armed with a newly acquainted ancient book and undecipherable characters and wishes to test his theories. In the graveyard, the two men pry up a stone slab, revealing a flight of stone stairs beneath, and then, but the rest you must discover yourself. The story fed my hunger for horror drama. I loved it. He sets the scene in jagged cliffs into the underground with ancient runes. It reads like Hitchcock's or Twilight Zone. Ambition. Right. Feel like bugs burrow into your pores. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing for this audience. I want my book to be a cozy bug that burrows into their pores. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and in my do's and don'ts, I'm gonna write that jagged cliffs, ambition. Feels like bugs burrowing into your pores, right? And again, this is all the language of people who buy books, right? What they love about it. And so I could, again, like maybe, and this is a tagline I could test. This is going to be a cozy bug burrowing into your pores. A swarm of cozy bugs burrowing into your pores. Enjoyable, creepy, eerie. I wanted to read Lovecraft for his terror-inducing descriptive prose, and this story was recommended as a starting point, though it's not as descriptive as some of his quotes that I have read. It was certainly enjoyable in the sense it does what I'm intending to, kind of vague. I like how many Spanish reviews there are. That's also another thing, like Spanish ghost stories and horror, awesome. So that's something to explore a little bit more. Would have rated this higher if the last line wasn't so corny. Great story, but the ending was lazy. Oh, that's good. All right, so we're gonna have our first don't. All right, corny last line, lazy last line. All right. Anyway, you get the idea, right? This is generative. I can do the same thing, right, with any of the Cats of Ulthar, Dreams in the Witch House, Rats in the Walls. Wow. Yeah, and like Rats in the Walls, man, that's anti-cozy, right? That's taking someone's house and making it awful and not a safe place. That is quintessentially horror. So, I question the coziness of this, but I'm going to look for some more statements, some more groups and places where my peeps for Cozy Cthulhu might be. All right. So, get cozy with Cthulhu in Brindlewood Bay. Oh, Endworld. This is like tabletop RPG and stuff. A dark and cozy mystery game by Jason Cordova. Nice. Cozy mysteries are a broad category involving amateur sleuths who solve crimes in small towns. American audiences are most familiar with shows like Murder, She Wrote as a prime example, though designers broaden the examples to many other detective shows. So, like, they are literally trying to be both cozy and Cthulhu. So I know anyone talking about Brindlewood Bay is probably my audience. So let me do here. My sheet is now rapidly expanding. Similar works. All right, and I'm just gonna do. Actually, I'm gonna do a link to this article on it. Work link notes. All right. And so we'll do Brindlewood Bay link. So one of the things I'm discovering is actually, even though I wanted to be like super unique and swim uphill with like Cozy Cthulhu and that'd be difficult, like there's already an audience for this. There's already audiences, right? And so when I am going to pitch this, I am going to go to the places where people are talking about Brindlewood Bay that's, very specifically like that, like the, Cats of Ulthar, or what was it? Eric Zahn. Eric Zahn. Just getting music. And then HPL story. And so I'm just going to go to where people are talking to them. Cthulhu Cup Cozy. I mean, it's a cup. Actually kind of fits the narrative. It's like taking Cthulhu and making it cutesy. Like people who buy Cthulhu Cup cozies might be the people interested in a cozy Cthulhu novella. That's kind of a stretch, but who knows, right? Just it's kind of crazy, right? But for instance, I could look up bloggers who write about these things and then have a big platform, and their audiences are more likely, especially if that blog has lots of comments or like vlog, video, whatever, that, if that's popular, then I might get a lot of people who are interested in that sort of thing. On the other side, if I go to like a generic sci-fi or fantasy channel and where Lovecraft stories are actually low in views, that would be a great signal that that's not a good audience for me, right? Like maybe they don't have any Lovecraft ones, so I don't know whether it's a good audience or not. Versus if I go to a place where they're kind of mentioning lots of these signals, then and those articles or videos or podcasts get decent viewership, readership, whatever, listenership, then that's a good indication that's a good place. And so this can help me think through my interviewing strategy and how to prioritize interviews. So I'm not just interviewing with everyone, but I'm interviewing with the places where they want that. So cozy mystery genre plus ? Cthulhu? Cthulhu Confidential. All right. Kind of RPG crowd, right? So RPG crowd, Cthulhu Confidential. Here's another Cthulhu Confidential. But like the RPG crowd is another one. Are there any do's and don'ts here? I like the cozy mystery genre. I like to combine it with a gimmick of some sort, extra spice. This is bad for the cozy mystery genre. It's all about talking to people and sizing them up. Once you know who the murderer is, you don't have a shout out or a chase. You wouldn't have any story left if you could short circuit that part where you get to know everybody. A super setting. Agatha Christie's. So I'm not seeing an angle here. Cozy mysteries rely on a murder happening in a default cozy setting, despite monsters hiding among humanity. Desperate monsters hiding among humanity doesn't provide the same base setting. Yeah, I think you would have to flip it. This is kind of a don't. Right? And so you have like an outer horror setting and maybe like an interior cozy setting. I mean, actually, in some ways, it might be more unsettling if you flipped it. And it's like the world is cozy, but for some reason, you know, my house is the only Cthulhu-ridden place, or my small town is the only Cthulhu-ridden place. In essence, actually, that's kind of any haunting story, though, right? Is just like taking the home and making it a scary place, but no one will believe you about the things going on there. Whatever. So what we're discovering is that the Cozy Cthulhu rabbit hole does not go too deep, right? We're starting to come back to Cozy Mugs, Brindlewood Bay. Actually, I might have some do's and don'ts in Brindlewood Bay. Are there any comments? Community, yes, comments. Oh, here's a random gem. So this is Kickstarter. It's not the comments, but it's the community, and it tells you what's one. There's 7,000 people supporting Gauntlet Gaming community. So for this Brindlewood Bay thing, good to know. But also tells you where backers came from, top cities. And so London, Seattle, Melbourne, Los Angeles, Chicago, Portland, Minneapolis, Toronto, New York, Austin. Hey, that's where I live. I don't suppose you can find the backers who specifically lived in Austin, but that would be great to connect to people. But it generally also gives you an idea. I don't know if you're going to do a broader tour, or if you're just going to do a remote web call with a podcast based in one area, or a local podcast or something. That might give you some ideas if you can find a Kickstarter related to your genre. Interesting tidbit, right? Where are people who are interested in this sort of thing? So, pretty fun. All right, so I think we found a couple of good sources, more than I expected, actually, with the Cozy Cthulhu moniker. But Cozy's very specific. I'm going to do Cthulhu comedy and take a look at that. Has there ever been a Cthulhu comedy? Again, R. Lovecraft is maybe the place to be. If we're including games, Cthulhu Saves the World. So again, reference. Stuart Gordon's stuff. Great old ones are schoolgirls. Nice. Evil Dead. Yeah. Okay, let's boop. Work. Evil Dead. Again, these are all rabbit holes that I can then go down. A Cthulhu comedy web series. The Cultist Cthulhu comedy web series. All right, let's go check out that web series and see what people have to say about it.
Hi, I'm Brianna.
Boop. The Trouble with Necromancy. Shadow over Innsmouth is my great personal favorite. Dungeon is great too. Again, that's kind of telling me like Shadow over Innsmouth. Like maybe some of the do's are like remind people of that book. Now that doesn't mean my book should be a rehash of Shadow over Innsmouth, but wow. Let's see. All right, so let's go back here. Innsmouth, the Dunwich Horror, right? Like, people love this one. Borrow from it, right? So it should remind people of the Shadow of Innsmouth. It doesn't mean I have to have fish people, but it does mean I should think about, like, yeah, decrepit towns, small cults, etc. Maybe I should check out blurbs for Shadow over Innsmouth. Actually, that might be good. Shadow over Innsmouth. Let's see if there's a blurb. Oh, that's Wikipedia. Psh, who reads Wikipedia? Lovecraft Archive, Goodreads. All right, people actually do lots of plot summaries, as we have learned from Goodreads, so maybe I will check out some of these blurbs. One night I had a frightful dream in which I met my grandmother under the sea. She lived in a phosphorescent palace of many terraces with gardens of strange leprous corals and grotesque breakgate efflorescences. All right. They like the language. Maybe that's a thing. I have to use the slightly ornate Lovecraftian language, and welcomed me with a warmth that may have been sardonic. Ooh, yeah, that reversal. Should be friendly, but, like, isn't. She had changed, and those who take to the water change, and she told me she had never died. Cool. Cool quote. Right? So again, I could go from here and get my do's and don'ts. Right? Just quote from that language. All right. Do's. Not that I'm going to use this specific language, but like I can come back to it. I usually, when I write, I do a very rough draft with holes in it. I go and fill those like holes, like I just do the exciting action scenes. Then I fill those back in, like backfill those with just enough connective issues to move people between the exciting scenes. And then, I do structurally edit it to make sure the pacing is right. And then some way later down there, I go more sentence level in description. And that's like a great type of influence to come back to. Maybe collect some of those phrases to inspire me as I am writing descriptions. Unsettling changes in loved ones, I think is bam, right? That's a good one. The greatness of Innsmouth lies in the fact that for once, unlike in such regrettable works as he in The Horror Red Hook, he was able to fashion a parable of these two fears that transcends racism and eugenics of his day. Okay, don't. Racism and eugenics. Okay. It's, when working in the Lovecast genre, that maybe bears mentioning. I don't think I was in danger of throwing that into my work, but now I'll try extra hard. It does make you wonder, though, what you're writing will be the racism and eugenics of our day. What is it that we're not aware of that other people will look back and cringe on? All right. So one quintessential human horror, the fear of humanity itself, may contain the seeds of its own devolution. All right. Sorry. Whoop. Ooh, yeah, that phrase from his own life was very poignant. Boom. All right. Some other remarkable things about Innsmouth are the monologue in dialect by the ancient Zadok, the finest thing of its kind Lovecraft's ever produced. Climax, which contains the only extensive action sequence in the Lovecraft canon involving a carefully planned escape from Gilman House and chase through the building streets. A denouement of which I will say that it only brings... Okay, got it. So these are all great. The eeriness of a small seaside town. All right, again, it's like the small seaside town thing. People love it. And again, that doesn't mean my town has to be in the seaside, although if I want it to be like, insert Innsmouth right into the story, or literally call it Innsmouth, like, you could do that. That would be a viable thing. But I think, again, going back to that idea that it just has to be kind of creepy, kind of claustrophobic, which I think is one of the few things that might work directly with the cozy genre, is like the small claustrophobic space, or the small town feel, right? It takes on a very different feel in cosmic horror versus coziness, so I've got to figure that out. But clearly this has to be a small town. Clearly, it just has to be. And it has to be a creepy town, and I think I might go in a different direction with that. All right, this is the dark heart of Lovecraft fiction at its finest. Secret cults, secret cities under the sea, strange mutated people, what's not to love? There we go. Boom. All right, and so I have been researching a lot of the Lovecraftian side of things. I could, pick out their inspirations. I could go in a different direction with dark fantasy or Cthulhu-inspired fantasy that I liked and kind of pursue that. Actually, one of the things I could do is try the reverse. So I've been hitting Lovecraft a lot. Maybe I could go cozy mysteries first. Cozy mysteries and Cthulhu or horror. Something like that. So try and search primarily for the cozy crowd and seeing if there's any people in the cozy crowd, there's any. So I have found spaces within the Lovecraft crowd where they are interested in comedies or cozy mysteries, etc. Can I do the reverse? Find people in the cozy crowd that kind of like horror, dark fantasy, Cthulhu, etc. So, cozy mysteries, books, horror. Okay, so Amazon might give me some ideas. Much like Goodreads, Amazon reviews are also a great source of do's and don'ts. So anyway, we'll see if these actually look like they are. A light-hearted whodunit about a grandmother-mother-daughter trio of amateur sleuths. Think Gilmore Girls, but with murder. Family drama. Okay. Let's go think about that. Mother-daughter murder night. We'll put that in similar works. Mother-daughter murder night. Different angle. Oh, think Gilmore Girls, but with murder. Alright, think Gilmore Girls, but with murder. Make sure we have the link. And then kind of do's and don'ts. Murder plus family drama. A do. Great do. All right. Genre mashup. Again, you can go cross genre. Genre mashup that delivers both on the dysfunctional family drama with humor, tough love, and learning to understand another's view, and an amateur cozy murder mystery that has plenty of twists and red herrings to keep me going to the end. Right, and so these might be slightly different audiences. One group likes small towns and cults, and the other likes murder, or likes family drama plus the cozy murder mystery part of things. Right, they might be very different audiences. And again, I actually haven't found a group for mother-daughter murder night. Maybe I should look up groups that are talking about it. But regardless. I'd probably at the end of the day want to pitch my book one way, for example, probably go like everybody loves Innsmouth. So like Innsmouth will be my hook. I will be presenting this at large H.P. Lovecraft groups where there are some people who like cozy things. I might reach out to specific creators, people who've talked about things like the tabletop RPG that seem to be cozy mystery, plus Lovecraft, Brindlewood Bay. That's where I would go. But then I could also experiment with reaching out to the cozy mystery group and then bringing out maybe something that's only not focused on in the cover or the tagline is there, maybe a little bit in the blurb at the back where I add family drama into it, heartfelt family drama or something like that, and then I just play up that aspect from the black blurb that's not taking too much space or distracting from the Innsmouth feel, and play up some more of these human interest cozy things. So, pretty girls, sisters, strangers, survivors. They vanished without a trace. 2 women have not spoken. The disappearance of a teenage girl and murder of a middle-aged man, almost a quarter century apart. What could connect them? Okay, blah blah blah. Again, I can spend more time reading blurbs of books that people like and suggest, but again, the reviews are more accurate because the reviews are the actual language fans use versus what authors say about their own work, which is a completely different perspective. And I want to be able to speak to the fans. So, I was blown away by the sheer power of Slaughter's works, as I've commented. We refer to early Cornwell, early Patterson, early Kuntz, and at least in my case, early Stephen King for a reason. Very graphic and may not be suitable for everyone. The story was good, pretty easy to figure out and sad. Not sure if I will read anything else from this author. Sad and horrific. Okay, then maybe not what I'm going for. I would enjoy the story and recommend it if it weren't so disturbing. The story involves really heinous acts that are described repeatedly in detail throughout the book. I mean, these are people who are giving it a good response. Not quite like the movie Seven, but similar in that you can't unread, unsee it. Not for the faint of heart. But great writing and storytelling. I wish that was more specific, but I will take some of these don'ts. Okay. Oh, that's the wrong field. And then I'm going to violence, right? All right, so again, there's kind of a note, like, some people really don't like the really graphic violence, especially if I'm making it cozy, so like details in the setting and setting it up, but leave the aftermath more to people's imagination, and that will be unsettling and people like that, but you might not like, visual, well, like deeply described gore that's you can't unread, as one person said. What else? A lot of people saying that as a don't. Again, and this is more of like the mystery genres stepping on horror, so the reverse. So that makes a sense. It was really well and kept me interested, engaging. Makes you think, do you really know the person you are married to? That kind of comes back to the idea of that grandma, the warmth that may have been sardonic, and loved ones not being what you thought they were, being changed. So I have been recording for 50 minutes. So I have only done around like 50 minutes of research, not even a couple hours. There's more I could do and will do. I think probably what I will go and do is fill in, search for not just Lovecraft generally, that's too big a target, but like Innsmouth specifically, some of these other works, and look at the groups that are discussing them. And so that will fill out this audience tab, because that's absolutely who I want to go and get feedback from. I want more groups in here. I've got a bunch of similar works, mostly in the Cthulhu space, but Evil Dead, I've seen that, or Army of Darkness, right? I've seen that some. So I think I can go into other groups. And it might be good. You shouldn't do this on the same day, especially if they're all Facebook groups, but like actually post the same concept in 3 different groups and see which groups it gets more traction in. Because you could tweak the idea, but you can also tweak who you're pitching it to. So it might be that like the Lovecraft people, when I do Innsmouth, they're like, actually, we're kind of done out with that. Whereas if I hit Army of Darkness people, they're like, yeah, we've read a little Lovecraft, but not that much, and we could definitely have more Innsmouth. You never know, right? So go ahead and test some of these. So I'm going to go to the similar works, find groups that are talking about that, fill out the groups tag. I already have lots of do's and don'ts. Reviews are great places for that, but you can also find it again in Reddit reviews and discussions, or Facebook groups and discussions, etc. So, but yeah, I already have a lot of good ones. And then, so what I'm going to do is I am going to come up with some hooks off camera and then go ahead and post them and get the feedback. So, scene change or clothes change. I spent a few days posting feedback, getting response. I posted in 2 places, the Reddit forum for r/Lovecraft, and I posted in a Facebook group for dark fantasy writers. The Lovecraft group has about 250,000 people, so I posted that up on one day and it was buried within a few hours, unfortunately, like below the bottom of the screen. So it got 1 upvote and someone saying, that sounds nice, I'd read that. Which, sounds nice is not exactly what you want for Lovecraft. So I would probably go ahead and I would say that's not invalidated, like it wasn't a big reaction, people hated it, but it's also not validated. I didn't get enough engagement and enough of the right type of engagement. So it's not just likes, and I would read that, but ideally you have a hot topic if people proactively ask you when it's going to come out, or like are willing to sign up for an email list or take some action. If they're not willing to take action, then chances are when you actually have the book and you're pitching it to people, they're not going to take action then either. So that's what I'm looking for. The Facebook group, the moderator took 2 days to approve my post. I'm sure it was immediately buried by all of the other stuff. They took 2 days to approve for posting. That group's only 7,000 people, But again, what I might do is find a smaller group with much more engagement per post as a better initial place to test my pitches and get feedback, and work up to a pitch that is so powerful it captures attention and resonates even within the bigger group. So this was so typical. I just wanted to kind of share that because chances are that's what you're going to get. You're not going to get a lot of haters on the internet. Everyone says, I don't want to post because of haters. It's like haters isn't the problem. It's just like not being able to get attention in a busy internet is the problem for most people. So not that there aren't haters, but you usually have to be famous to get haters and attract all of the mentally unhealthy people that want to take it out on a stranger because you're well known. So until you get to that lovely point, then you can go ahead and post with impunity, knowing that almost no one will read your post until you've got exactly the right group and exactly the right pitch. So really, actually, there's 3 things I'm going to focus on next to keep testing my pitch. And since my pitch is invalidated, I will continue writing and editing, but throughout this process, I will schedule breaks, maybe weekly or every other week, to test my pitch. So I'm working on this throughout the process. And so the feedback I get can also inform my writing. If I only do this after I'm done writing and editing, then I can change my pitch, but I am limited to only the things my book already delivers, and I can't change my book. So I will be doing this throughout the process. And the 3 things I will be doing to improve my pitch would be, 1, of course, I can change the pitch. So I tried 2 different approaches. One in Reddit because of the reviews there about loving the detail of the setting and particularly the Shadow over Innsmouth, and some similar feedback on Goodreads. I tried to do a setting where I went in depth into the setting, then and then kind of led up to my... Actually, I think I had a general story hook first, something like, no one ever recommends the Raven Cafe, and yet strange people find their way there and leave hideous and strange objects behind. So like that's kind of the core concept. So I did lead that, but then I backed up and then mentioned how this is a small town. No one ever goes there unless you realize you're running on empty right when you see the exit sign. I kind of describe it almost as if someone was driving into the one gas station, one pump town with this creepy, decrepit cafe right across from it, and describe the inside of the cafe, etc. So that's one approach, right? Like the setting as a pitch, and I will work on that approach and try it in different ways. Maybe I need to use more specifically Lovecraftian language to evoke that. Maybe this one gas station town with a creepy, weird cafe, like a gothic but 1950s themed kind of mismatch of strange influence. Maybe that doesn't work for people. I need to change it up. Who knows, right? And then I tried a slightly different take with my Facebook post. Was a little bit more of a plot summary. So like Ethan works at this creepy cafe, hooks, strange people come in and leave these weird objects behind. And then I actually go into the inciting incident. A particular strange person is looking for a girl, and she describes exactly the main character's high school friend who disappeared, right? And she leaves behind a locket with a picture of that friend at the time she disappeared. So you have questions: what happened to her? Is she alive? Could he, save her, recover her, find her, or at least find out what happened to her? Those are the stakes. And again, any of those pitches might be able to work or not. I can try those different angles, and basically I need to keep honing my pitch. Now, there's 2 other things that could be the reason for low engagement. 2, I'm not in the right group, so I will, when I'm spending time pitching, I will also spend time looking for groups. And as I mentioned before, it might be better to start with smaller, high engagement groups rather than trying to capture attention in larger groups. So number 3, though, is just the social media aspect of it. My Reddit post was, essentially asking for feedback on an idea for a Lovecraft-inspired novel. That sounds generic. Maybe I should have started with my hook, the Raven Cafe, where, strange, emaciated people leave behind cursed objects. And then first line of the post is, hey, I have a concept for my for a Lovecraft novella. Let me know if this resonates. And then I would have gotten maybe more eyeballs on it rather than just like one upvote, one comment. Anyway, then, and the same thing for the Facebook. It doesn't have a title, but I could be careful and I could do a hook first line by itself, then the rest. And I can play around with, and I can and will in future posts and future groups, play around with what that hook is. I might go back to the moderator after a few weeks and be like, hey, I don't want to be spammy. I tried getting feedback on a hook. I didn't get much. So I'm doing a new post, it's like the same concept, but I've edited my pitch. Would that be okay? And then I might get a little bit more volume because I hope I don't burn out after just, one post per group. Anyway. So that's my process. I think that's a pretty typical process that a lot of people are going to run into. I remember in my creative writing class in college, I had a professor that would not, before I turned in the paper and got the final grade, give me any feedback on it. I would ask him about, tell him what I'm doing in my book, like, do a pitch or describe it or whatnot. He'd say, oh, that's great if it works. And I'm like, well, that's the thing. I want help with it if it works. I'll tell you when you get your grade. That drove me nuts, right? But you don't have to do this as a writer. In fact, writer Brandon Sanderson says he usually understands how people react to things when they're released because he gives test chapters to his target audience to read. So you can do that starting with your pitch. Now, if you only do audience research one time for a couple hours before your project, you will still actually be ahead of most authors who just sit down, write whatever they want to write. They don't want to think about pitching. They're putting that off till the end when they have to market it. What are the advantages? Well, one, you have tried pitching once, and that's now in your mind. That's the biggest advantage. So that will give you a couple benefits. One, as you're writing, you will be thinking about, all right, what could I do that would interest that apparently apathetic Reddit audience or Facebook group or whatever, right? You'll be writing for an audience, which is powerful. It becomes less of your own personal journal, creative journal, and more a rhetorical project, something for somebody else to read. And that will help you focus your writing on not only what you're interested in, but the Venn diagram intersection between what you're interested in and what other people want to read. It will pull you more towards the middle, which is nice. But the other way that helps you is that even if you don't do audience research again throughout the process, which I will do and I recommend you do, even if you don't do that, having done it once tells your brain, this is important to me and this is something I want to think about. You then have a system in your brain, I think called the reticular activating system or something like that, that's in charge of noticing things. This is the part of your brain that, like, for instance, if you're buying a new car, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere on the road. It's not that there are more of those cars on the road necessarily, it's that you didn't notice them. They were just another car until you told your brain by doing all this research into the car buying process, this particular car is important to me. And then all of a sudden, like almost passively, your brain is bringing that to attention when it sees it. The same thing will happen with book blurbs and writing pitches for your book. i.e., if you try it once before this whole process, then you've activated that system. And throughout the process, you are much more likely to pay attention to book blurbs, to notice when they're good or bad, when other people mention their blurbs in online group. You're more likely to think, oh, was that something that interested me? Was that something that bored me? Did I do that thing that bored me, right? Like your brain will, without sitting down and scheduling time to learn how to pitch, will look for opportunities to learn about pitching. You just kind of have to prime the pump. So there's a lot of benefit even to just doing this a couple hours one afternoon up front. Now, that said, you will get compound interest if you do this multiple times, right? If you do this once and you write a novel for years, probably the chances that your reticular activating system will keep up will drop off, right? If you're not doing anything active. But if at regular points for a longer novel, maybe once a month, for a shorter project like mine, once every week or couple weeks, that will keep your brain noticing pitches and in the pitch learning mode, which will make any time you come into contact with a book idea, book pitch, etc., a learning opportunity for you instead of just in one ear and out the other. So that is why I recommend you do audience research early and regularly throughout your process, and I'll be giving you updates. I will show you pitches that I try. Hopefully a video down the line when I have more experience will be like the history of my book pitches. That will be embarrassing because like the first ones I threw up were like what I could do in an afternoon just to quickly test my theory and my ideas. In fact, I need to fix one of them for a typo. It's just kind of like that, all right, get something out there quick, right? But hopefully over time you will see how they evolve, and I hope those evolutions will help draw attention to what you could do to improve your pitch. So, and there's several different categories, right? I'll see kind of what works for my audience. It might be different, but emphasizing like a creepy location pitch versus the general idea hook versus the inciting incident already are 3 categories. Another one I've thought of that I could try to do is more visual, right? I could try and construct a visual approximation of this creepy cafe where things are located and see if that garners attention in the way that just saying, hey, check out my prose does not. Anyway, lots of ideas, but the point is go through the process. There's the 5 steps, the examples. You can find a shorter video where I just give the 5 steps, or you could rewatch this video as you do audience research and see practical examples of the 5 steps. So those 5 steps are 1, define your niche, 2, find your peeps, 3, make a list of do's and don'ts, 4, choose which do's and don'ts you want to pitch. And like I've been saying in this video, I kind of leaned into the place, try and focus on the creepy place, etc. And then 5, ask for feedback, which I've just done, and this is iterative, so that maybe I will do deeper research on what people like, then refine, go back and find more groups, refine my pitch, etc. Try different do's and don'ts, change things about my pitch, etc. So this is not something I expected to do one time and nail it, but I did want to show you a live example of what this looks like, and you will see as I iterate and document different steps how this changes and evolves over the course of my novella. All right, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions as you watch this video or go about your audience research, please put them in the comments down below. I would love to address them. Or if you get any killer tips for doing this audience research and testing your pitch, go ahead and throw those in the comments down below too. I'm sure that would be super helpful for future people watching this video. See you next time on the Ubiquitous Tavern.